Welcome along, everyone, to something a little bit different and a little bit special. This is the GT1 Sports Club by Curbstone. An opportunity for some of the most expensive hypercars in the world to show themselves around this Barcelona circuit on a Sunday of the finals of the World GT European Challenge. An exclusive track day for the most exclusive of vehicles. And in our field today, we have the Pagani Huayra R. We'll have an opportunity to hear, most importantly, this fantastic V12 Mercedes engine that is mounted to this car. We have 6, would you believe, of these vehicles. As you can see on the graphic, numbers produced 30. That's around 20%. I'm not sure if every single one of those 6 is out on circuit, but quite a remarkable number in the paddock. And listen to this. Revs to 9,000 revs. V12 Mercedes engine producing 850 brake horsepower. And all of these cars, every single one of them that we'll see on circuit, running on Pirelli slick tyres. It's the first opportunity for these drivers to get out on circuit this weekend. There'll be a second session this afternoon. And then they have a full day to themselves tomorrow as well. The first 2 rounds of the GT1 Sports Club, which was launched as a prologue here last year, happened at Paul Ricard. So this is a new track to many of these drivers, and they do have the opportunity to head over to the Yas Marina circuit in December as well to round out the Sports Club for 2022. And think of this very much as an exclusive meeting of the most expensive hypercars in the world. £3.5 million for a Pagani Huayra R. And similar value for the Lamborghini SCV12. I counted 4 of those in the paddock here, which means we've got 10% of all numbers produced. And the Lamborghini, surprisingly for a Lamborghini, doesn't necessarily sound as spectacular as the Pagani. Usually, Lamborghinis are the most spectacular vehicle. It does have a V12 engine, 6.5 litres, producing a similar power to the Pagani. And maybe once it's able to really unleash, we'll hear the potential from that engine a little more, but it is not revving to the exact same high-pitched rev as we've heard already. When you sit in the paddock and hear that Pagani go past, it doesn't seem as though it can possibly be a vehicle. It must be a Formula 1 car or some kind of single-seater. Not too much details given on the drivers of these cars. Many, of course, would be the owners of these cars, and therefore many of these drivers will be very, very important people around the world. They are here to take pleasure in driving some of the most expensive vehicles, or their most expensive vehicle in the world. A specially built hangar in Italy was made for the Pagani Huayra R to be stored in. So many of these hypercars not actually stored within the facilities of the owners' homes. It is something that, for instance, Ferrari insist upon. You're not allowed to take them home. Pagani say that you can, but of course they've all been brought here to Barcelona by the Pagani factory running the effort of running 6 of these vehicles. And of course, telemetry and changes can be made to these cars to make them feel better. There's driver tuition available to all the drivers as well. The one we're watching here does seem as though it's the one that gets the most use. Lots of tape over various parts of the car to protect it. So we've seen the Pagani, we've seen the Lamborghini, and third car in the back of shot there is the McLaren Senna. Just one McLaren Senna with us today. And again, a similar 825 brake horsepower. The most popular car around, with 75 examples of the Senna GTR. And the GTR is the track-only version of the Senna. The slightly less souped-up version can be driven on the roads, but all of these vehicles are not road legal. The Senna GTR itself also not road legal. Probably also the oldest of the vehicles, being released in 2018 as a precursor and as an idea for McLaren to then go and join the World Endurance Championship. And now here is the oldest of the vehicles out on circuit from the late 70s, Stefan Vettel's Porsche 935. Unfortunately, Stefan has a meeting, so wasn't able to drive today. So lucky Mr. Fanatec, Thomas Jakomeyer, who recently took victory at the Red Bull Ring in his Toro Rosso Jakomeyer recently driving his 2008 Toro Rosso, the car that won the Monza Grand Prix back in 2008 with Sebastian Vettel. He now owns that car and campaigns it in Boss GP. So Jakomeyer with plenty of experience driving high-powered machines. Now the 1970s 935, the original vehicle, this a body show of a 935, a tribute to that incredibly successful vehicle, but a modern version of it. Very, very unique vehicle itself. It looks as though probably one of Thomas Jakomeyer's marketing team in the passenger seat. A lot of these cars do actually have passenger seats, mainly for the drivers to have some kind of tuition. The interior of all of them, complete carbon fibre. Unfortunately, the noise of the Porsche rather lost behind the squeal of the Pagani Huayra, which was just ahead. So back to that McLaren quickly then. A 4-litre twin-turbo V8 in that vehicle, as opposed to the V12s we've got around the rest of the circuit. And it was built so that if the regulations that were suspected to come into Le Mans, the World Endurance Championship, happened, and you needed to have a road car, a road-going, road-legal version to develop the race version, then McLaren could, in theory, base their racing Le Mans prototype on the Senna. That was the philosophy behind it. Released in 2018, so 5 years ago. And ultimately then, so far, we've not heard of the McLaren name dipping its toe in that direction. The Senna has spawned various iterations. The GTR that we're seeing here on slick tyres in full track day configuration. There's the Senna LM and the Senna GTR LM. So there is a road-going version of that car, which is the GTR LM. However, only 5 of those were built, and they were specifically coloured in tribute of the Le Mans winning 1995 McLaren. Of course, that was the McLaren F1 GTR, centrally located driver. Back to the Huayra. Huayra. a Peruvian wind god. That is where the name comes from. Turn up the sound, have a listen. Pure sound from this Mercedes V12. Six-litre V12 engine specifically designed for Pagani by Mercedes, by HWA, revving to 9,000 revs. Run through a specific 6-speed manual gearbox, sequential gearbox, I should say. The car itself fully carbon fibre, so only weighing just over 1,000 kilos, just over a tonne. And it served as a predecessor to the Zonda. There was a Zonda in the paddock. I'm not sure if that Zonda has come out onto circuit. The Zonda R initially released it back in 2009. But when you start nosing around the car, you realise just how very specific the car is inside. The Zonda, if you remember, had a very fancy, very different interior to it. The inside of these Huaras looking very similar to what you would expect from any hypercar. Almost rectangular steering wheel, carbon fibre everywhere, and lots of buttons and knobs to twiddle. This is just the first 25-minute session of 2 today, and then they have full access to the circuit tomorrow. A proper track day experience run by SRO and Curbstone events. Curbstone based in Paul Ricard, so many of these events happening at the circuit in the Azores. In the Azores? That's a completely different place to Azure. $2.6 million plus taxes. The Huara R. So that actually is a little cheaper than the Lamborghini. This concept launched by Stefan Rattel last July with the prologue at this circuit last year. An opportunity for any hypercar to come and join not just the on-circuit entertainment, but also, of course, the off-track VIP hospitality and hotels, and the ability to mix with like-minded owners of these incredible vehicles. The fact that we've got 6 of these Paganis here, 20% of all that will be built, is a bit mad. Great noise on the overrun from the Essenza SC V12. 6.5 litre V12. About 300 kilos heavier than the Huara, weighing in at 13,750 kilos. Of course, originally based on the Huracan, as so many of the Lamborghini hypercars are. Hear how the engine's hardly running cleanly, such as the tentative nature of the drivers that are tickling the throttle around this Barcelona circuit. Sounds a bit better now that he's got his foot down the main straight here in Barcelona. And cleared the overrun. The big difference, I suppose, between the Huara and the Lamborghini in terms of their V12 engines is that the Lamborghinis is mounted longitudinally to allow for the gearbox. And therefore, the way that the air enters the engine, quite different to that of what we would usually expect. This concept's a bit of a dream for Stefan Rattel, an opportunity to get his 935 out onto some of these amazing circuits. A bit of a wiggle there from Thomas Yakamaya. The man behind Fanatec, who has been our championship sponsor now for the 2 seasons. And the logos around the final corner. So the 935 second generation, based on a 991 GT2 RS, and you'll hear a lot more about Porsches when David Addison takes over this job in the second of our sessions. He'll be able to tell you every single centimetre of the Porsche that's out there. Known as or resembling bodywork from the 935 78 version, the 1978 car. And obviously as a tribute to that car. The LED tail lights on the car come from the 919 hybrid LMP1 race car. A little fact for you. Part of the ownership of having a Pagani Huayra R is that you get Mark Mapelli and Emanuele Pirro as driver trainers. And actually, when you do have a vehicle of this kind of nature, especially one with slick tyres, all of these cars with slick tyres, driver coaching and how to deal and how to get the best out of these cars is almost vital. There is no point having a car like this and driving it like you would drive on the normal roads, because you simply will find it a struggle. You'll certainly not feel what it's capable of, and therefore the adrenaline rush of really driving it hard. This one's being driven pretty well, actually. Traction control settings for the drivers to settle the car down as much as possible. Doesn't mean you put it onto 12 and have the electrics interfere with everything you do. You turn it down as much as you possibly can. On the Curbstone events, there is the ability for timing and scoring as well, even though these are non-competitive sessions. They all, of course, all have data loggers for the teams to be able to see exactly what the car is doing, if the driver's so interested in times at all. I would suggest that this #1 car perhaps is. Absolutely everything inside that vehicle is fully customizable for the driver, for the owner. Various aerodynamic, movable aerodynamic devices in the vehicle as well, some of which you can see, others of which are within the front bodywork and aerodynamics inside the car. Fitted with the Pirelli slick tyre, which takes some getting used to. If you've never driven a slick tyre before, you really do need to understand how to bring them up into temperature, how to get the best out of them when they're at temperature. It isn't simply just go out on circuit and go as hard as you can straight away. Number one, that will almost always end in disaster. But as temperature gets into the slick tyre, you are offered more confidence, you're offered more grip, and suddenly the more you lean on it, the more you generate temperature and the better they become. So there is certainly a way to learn a little bit of understeer into turn 10 there from the 63 Lamborghini. And again, if you haven't leaned on the car, then you're not generating that temperature to find the grip. Definitely being driven a little bit more sprightly, the 63, from when we joined it earlier. That seems to be the end of the session. I'm not sure if I've seen a checkered flag, but I've certainly seen lots of cars coming into pit lane. And our GT1 Sports Club by Curbstone Events then comes to a close. They'll be going back out onto circuit again a little bit later on, and you'll be able to join David Addison for that one. Thanks for joining us, and see you later on.